Welcome to the TechnoGals podcast, where two gals talk about technology and anything top of mind. Let's get started.
Let's do it.
I was waiting for some finger guns.
Okay, I get made fun of when I do the finger guns. I get made fun of when I don't do the finger guns. I don't know what to do over here.
You said it was going to be your signature calling though. Like that was going to be. So I thought maybe you're there. There it is. Okay, so I've got some things I want to touch base on, which is we've been talking about the use of our filler words for really since episode one
Mhm.
or two technically, where we started to notice our use of filler words. And one of our listeners, and also a good friend of mine, sent me some information about filler words that I think I wanted to get your perspective on it, because I
All
think
right.
it's actually really interesting.
Okay.
So this comes from, or the information she shared with me is that essentially filler words, especially for females, act as like a cue to let everyone else know that we're not done and we're not relinquishing the space back for someone else to talk. And I
Oh,
would say that's very applicable because we're frequently in meetings where we're interrupted or someone talks over us, especially if you have like a pause. So we've been looking at filler words in this really negative way, like maybe we're not professional in talking or we don't know quite what we want to say. But there's evidently been some studies attached to it, how it's females use it specifically to kind of make for sure that they retain their space or that they're not
interesting.
done, letting people know that I'm not done speaking. What do you think
Yeah.
about that?
Um, well, I've definitely had my share of interruptions. I don't know. I can definitely see how it makes sense, I will say, but I also do think that for me, right now I'm trying not to use them. So now I'm thinking about it. Now I can't talk. But I think for me, well, maybe it's a subconscious thing. I don't know. I don't know how I think about it. Sometimes I feel like maybe just like my grammar is horrible. And when I listen to me, in a playback, I'm like, why am I saying that so many times? But maybe when we listen to this playback, I'm going to try to lean into am I trying to make space for something, or am I thinking about something and I'm not quite sure yet what I want to say, and I hate awkward silence. So my default is like, um, I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's really valid. But I feel like ever since speech class in high school or college or wherever where you were forced to take speech, or if you weren't forced and you just enjoyed it,
Yeah.
that's great as well. But they've like, you use filler words, and it became like ingrained in me that these filler words are negative. Like
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
negative connotation for filler words. And it made me feel like I haven't practiced enough or I'm unsure of what I want to say. But this is also what she points out as well in her feedback, is that when we use a filler word, it's because there's so many words in the English language or any language really,
Yeah.
that a filler word sometimes because you're trying to search for the right word.
Yes. That's
And it's like, what a great thing that your brain is so fast and it can compute all this so quickly that it's using this word to find the right word.
Oh my God, I love that perspective that our brains are so fast and we are so cool that we're just trying to find the right word. Like, what a way to flip the switch on kind of what is
Yeah,
maybe a more negative sentiment.
it is. And so I was like, you know what? Here we are making fun of ourselves or judging ourselves harshly for using it. And really, like maybe we should be flipping the script on it. It's not all negative. Our brains are fast and we're just trying to find the right word. There's a lot of them.
Oh, I
I love
love it.
it. And I love that she took the time to type this up to me and send it to me because
Heck
it
yeah.
really challenged my perspective. And that's one of the things I love the most when you were asking about board of directors or who's on your personal board of directors.
Uh-huh.
She's definitely like one of them because she's my
Yeah.
challenger. In all
Oh.
senses, she'll be like, why do you think like that?
Oh, that's awesome. I love that stat.
So I love that she took the time to send
Heck
that to
yeah.
me and provide a different perspective.
Are you gonna give her a shout out, or she's just gonna be unknown to the world?
I'll tag her afterwards. I don't have her permission to
Oh,
say her
okay.
name, but
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
tag her afterwards in case she's interested. She knows who
Okay.
she is.
She knows who she. awesome.
All right, cool. So we also had a couple of comments from our listeners, which I love that people are willing to send us some comments and send us questions. But someone said, "Can I have a cheat sheet for all your acronyms?" And I was like, "I'm so sorry. We don't even know we do it anymore. Like it's just such part of our vernacular to say these
Uh,
things." And even on prem, someone commented, "What is that?" And they're like, you're forgetting the is at the end on premise, but they're like, it took me a long time to figure out what that
yeah.
meant. And so it was one of those moments for me that we were ingrained in this space so much, and it's just like organic, and we're just popping these words out. But to someone new to the space, they're like, I don't know what that means. So super sorry to any of our listeners that have to deal with the fact that we speak in a completely different acronym language sometimes.
You know what's funny is, well, I'm just gonna call him out, even though I don't have his permission because he's my dad. So my dad was asking about that, and I saw him last week. He was like, "I listened to your podcast. You use a lot of acronyms." He was like, "I was trying to figure out what all these things are," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, sorry about that." And so we were talking a little bit about it, and he was like, "You must have listened to my feedback because your next episode, way less acronyms. Great job." So I feel like we're making progress. We're slowing down. We got dad in our corner. All is right in the world.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Keep the comments coming because it's fun to see what people think, and also just to
Yeah.
challenge what we're sharing and our perspectives. I loved it.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So for the meetup today, we're talking about like the growth mindset or this idea of incremental improvement. And I think maybe I'm in my 40s and I've been thinking about this a lot. Like the person I was in my 20s, I'm really embarrassed by it. You know, it's just there's a lot of growth that happens, maturity that happens. I'm not embarrassed like in a negative way, but I'm like, I'm so much
Yeah.
wiser now. I would have never done that.
Yeah.
And even how I acted like with my employer, I kind of felt like there was an arrogance if I think back about it, like I knew so much. And now that I'm older and wiser, I'm just like, wow, I knew so little. But that's always hindsight, and that's like 2020, and I can see that. And I started leading a team like in my 30s. And even who I am as a leader today is much different than who I was as a leader when I first started and got a team. And so I think that this idea of just consistent evolution or consistent improvement is a choice. And so I want to talk about like how do you stay consistently improving? Why is that an important thing for you? But before we get started in that, I'm going to tell you a story about sourdough.
Oh,
And
here we
sourdough
go.
is now like it's like now like the bane of my existence. I fucking hate sourdough. But I also love it. I'm going to figure out how to bake it. So,
Yeah. You can do it.
many years ago, I we'll see. Feeling defeated with it, but I'm not going to give up. And this is like the meat of the conversation is like, why do we keep pushing? Like, how do you find that grit when sourdough is beating you up all the time?
Yes.
All the
Tell
time.
us. Tell
Yeah.
us.
I don't
I
know that
want
I
to
got the
know.
answer, but so many years ago, I was in San Francisco and meeting up with one of the people that we also mentioned was on my personal like board of directors or
Okay. Yep.
yeah, she was my primary mentor, first kind of mentor in the software and the engineering space. And she was like, you should get pizza at this place down the street. They have a sourdough crust and it's so good.
Ooh,
And I was
yum.
like, yeah. And I did get it. And it was amazing. It was delicious. And so I was like, you know what? I've been craving that. I don't live in San Francisco. So I'm going to see if I can make this like sourdough crust and make some pizza at home because it was just it's been probably 6 years since I was there and I still remember this crust. It was like just like that good. So I looked up on the internet and started to make my starter so that it kind of gets that sour taste to it. And since then, I don't know how long this is, but since then, I haven't made a proper loaf of sourdough. It's at least been 2 to 3 months I've been trying to make a proper loaf of sourdough. And I could easily just go to the grocery store and pay like $4 for it and have a delicious someone who knows what they're doing.
But that's not the
Just
point.
it's just going to show up. It's not the point. And like why is that? But I made my starter. I put, did all the things. I've made my loaf. It does not rise how it's supposed to. I'm going to blame the weather. I don't think that I'm supposed to, but sourdough is finicky. It needs all of these, like the right humidity, the right temperature to rise. It needs the right amount of like the starter, the active starter to whatever you're going to feed it with from flour to water. And it's like this multi-step process that I never knew I was getting myself into. I was like, I'm just gonna make some sourdough. Can't be that hard. It's very hard. It's very, very hard. It's very hard. So, but do I keep giving up or do I give up? And I'm like, screw it, I'll just go to the grocery store. No. And it's like, this is what I want to talk about today is like, do you ever have these moments where you're like, I'm choosing this hard route, but I think I can do it, even though I keep failing at it, but I believe in myself and that I can do it. And that's what I want to talk about is
Yeah.
some of your experiences with continuing to push, even though it feels like there's just sourdough, man. Sourdough's taking you
Uh,
down.
yes. Okay. Yeah, I do have an example, but before we talk about that, I want to talk just a little bit more about sourdough. So I didn't realize sourdough was this phenomenon. Like
Thing.
people
Yeah.
people are like really obsessed with like trying to figure out how to make sourdough. And I
Yeah.
was doing the death scroll, I don't know, like a few weeks ago, and I ran across this reel, and it was this husband trying to get his wife to go do stuff with him or the kids or just to get out of the house. And she's in her like baking uniform and she's talking about the sourdough. She's like, I can't. And she points to the calendar. She's like, I need to turn my sourdough starter 3/4 of a turn and then flip it upside down. Like all of these like really weird. I mean, she was just being, extravagant with it, but it was just hilarious. And I sent it to you and I'm like, is this what it's like? Is this like your the sourdough complex? So
Yeah.
it sounds, I mean, you're in it now, right? Like you're gonna get it. You're gonna get it done. It's gonna be fine,
I don't know.
right?
Actually, I
No,
don't know if
yeah,
I'll ever
you
get
are.
it.
You
It
will.
could take me a year. I even like was so boastful when I started. I would text to my friends. It's like, "Hey guys, I made a sourdough starter. If any of you would like a little bit of it, so you can make your own sourdough bread, because you can keep like feeding it. Like once you've
Yeah.
made the starter, you just keep feeding it
Uh-huh.
with some more water and some more flour, and it just keeps being
Feeding it.
happy. But I haven't been able to make it super happy. So I'm doing something wrong. And so my poor friends are like, hey, you mentioned the sourdough starter. Do you have it yet? Can I have it? And I'm like, no, it's not ready. Poor people have been waiting for months. I'm like, I
It,
don't know if it's ever going to be ready.
what's that movie? Is it Little Shop of Horrors where it's like the
With the
Venus
plant, feed me
flytrap?
Seymour.
Who is
Yeah,
it?
feed me Seymour. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how
Yeah.
you talk about your sourdough starter is how I think about like the plant and the guy feeding the Venus
Yeah.
flytrap stuff, and then it turns into this big scary monster and all of those things.
Yeah,
So,
that's how, and so you were talking about doom scrolling or and now my Instagram feed is full of
all
nothing but
sourdough.
sourdough. What to do with your discard, if you're having this issue, what to do with it. And I'm like, oh, so I'm following all these people now trying to
Oh
figure out how
God.
do I get my sourdough to look like their sourdough. And they're like, well, I'm using an established starter. And I'm like, what is that? Because I have an active
Can
one,
I
I
have the
think. Can
established?
you can you ship me some?
Oh man,
It's
that's good.
terrible. And so it is like now it's like I could be studying to learn about machine learning, but no, I gotta go figure out how to make sourdough.
Sourdough. Well, when you
For
figure
like
it
one
out,
loaf of bread a week, we don't even eat bread that often.
well, you want pizza, one pizza a week.
Yes, this is I'm so upset with my life and like the choices I made and where I am with like the sourdough. I wish I never would have started, but
Hey,
this is that grit. Like I'm like, no, I'm not gonna give up until I make that perfectly like leavened sourdough that
yes.
looks just like it came from San Francisco.
Yes, I believe in you. Um, so this reminds me of a quote that I sent you the other day, and we'll have to bleep this out, but I think about it often. I was watching a podcast, and this guitar player, I think she played the bass, and I can't remember her name, but she was talking about like working with her mentor and getting better and messing up different riffs and all of this stuff. And she went out and played this show and she messed up a couple times, but no one in the audience knew. She was so like hard on herself. And her mentor told her, on your worst day, you're still a bad mother. And I'm like, that is just, I don't know, that just sits with me.
I love that.
And I'm like, so that's how you need to think about it with sourdough. Your starter is not going well. Well, just you're still a bad motherfucker and it's fine.
Yeah,
Okay, then.
thanks. I really appreciate that because
You're welcome.
I mean
I'm here
it
all
does
day.
beat you up. Like
It
I don't
does.
understand why flour and yeast and water is so complicated. It's like
Yeah.
it's really
Science.
frustrating. Yeah, it is.
Science.
And we do some difficult things here and like we help with really complex integrations and we support our customers in really complicated situations and solving business problems and I'm like yeah,
But have
okay,
you
that's
made
fine.
sourdough?
Yeah, have you any of you tried to do sourdough because your data pipeline will be fine if you can solve that. You won't be able to solve this
Oh,
sourdough problem though.
this is the best. Maybe just for the audience, we're recording on a Friday morning before work, so this is a great way to start the day. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
so wait, what was your question? Your question was, how do I do hard things? How do I stay motivated?
Yeah, how do you keep pushing when like you find your sourdough that just wants to beat
Oh,
you up all
yeah.
the time, but you're like, I'm not gonna let that get me down. I'm
Yeah.
gonna keep. Where do you find the grit to keep like determined to meet your goals and like how do you find that consistency and just like tell sourdough to off?
Right. Okay. So I'm not saying this is a healthy way to think about things, but this is just how my brain does. So
I love it.
I
I already like where this is starting.
I I guess I'll just use an example. I was studying for the machine learning specialty certification, AWS, and it was really, really hard. I'm not good at math. A lot of it is backed by these different algorithms. You do have to have a pretty good understanding of the mathematical side of, why specific data is being pulled out and how you adjust the algorithm and hyperparameters to see the data that you want to see. And it's really hard. Like for me, that's not something that I'm naturally good at anyways. And I took the test. I studied for, I don't know, about a month and a half, 2 months maybe. I took the test last Monday, and you need a 750 to pass. And I got a 722. Wah, wah, wah. So
I bet
close.
that's like one or two questions more than
Yes.
you needed to get right. That has to
Yeah.
be so close.
It was like a stab in the heart. And but like back to like the motivation part is like now I'm pissed. I'm like machine learning certification, you are not going to defeat me. And it actually just motivates me to study harder and want to pass it even more because I think, and Alicia, you mentioned this, it's kind of like that underdog situation of you I feel like it's really hard. I've gone through it once. I've failed. I'm feeling like the underdog. I'm like, okay, I just use all of that energy to take it again. So I'm scheduled. I'm gonna try again next Thursday, and hopefully I can get a 750 and just like check it off the box and
Smash
then
it.
celebrate with an old fashioned.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's just
Yeah.
like that was the piece I was saying is unhealthy is because I really do. I take it I don't, almost like personally. I'm like, "Ugh, me? I studied so hard. I deserve to pass this." And then it's like then my brain's like, "Well, did I study hard enough?" And it's I don't want to say it's like negative self-talk, but it's more about like I like get in this weird like cycle of amping myself up of no, that's not going to defeat me. And you know what? I learned a lot during the process. So even regardless of if I fail again, I don't if I failed again, I don't would I try to take it again?
Yes.
Probably.
Yes.
Yeah.
You'll take it again. Yeah. I can
But
already tell.
I really
You're not gonna stop taking it till you complete it.
no, it's my it could be this could be my new sourdough. I don't know, but
So
um
I was just thinking, machine learning certification is your sourdough.
yeah. Yeah. And like, okay, cool, I passed. That's great. But the whole reason why I wanted to take the certification is for me, it's a forcing mechanism for me to learn. And so right now, obviously, like machine learning, data, Gen AI, it's like all over the place. And I felt like I had a knowledge gap in being able to participate intelligently in conversation. And so even though I failed, I feel like I've learned a lot and I feel like I have a way better base understanding so I can go have some of those conversations. But now it's just like that last little, I got to get over the finish line to say, like, yes, I did it. And I think before, so I've taken the Solution Architect Associate certification twice now. I passed both times, but it expired, so I had to take it again. But before, one thing I just like, you're talking about as you get older, like you get wiser and like you just some of the things that you do now as a leader are different than you would have done even like in your 30s. When I was studying for the SAA certification, I was brand new to the cloud. I think it was a relatively new certification. I'd heard some murmurings of some architects in the organization. This is, I don't know, like 8 years ago, 9 years ago. And say like how hard it was. And I secretly studied for it. I didn't tell anyone because if I failed, I didn't want to have to tell anyone that I failed. And I think, and I passed like the first time, and I remember going to my senior, and him and I were really good friends. So it's silly that I wouldn't have told him anyways. But I remember telling him like, "Hey, I just passed the SAA certification." He was like, "What? I didn't even know you were studying." But like now it's like, I think giving yourself a little bit of grace and being a little bit more vulnerable, like, hey, I'm going to go take this really hard certification. I studied my ass off. I guess we'll see if I pass. And it just, I think can kind of help. I don't know. In a way, it gives you a little bit more confidence that you're getting that off your shoulders. Like, it's not like this secret thing. It's okay if you fail and you need to take it again. But this time, I let several people know I was studying for it. I told several people that I failed and that I'm going to try it again. So that was a really long-winded answer, but
So,
long
okay,
story
so I
short.
love that because I don't know if folks know this or not, but if you are, watching or listening, we go into this almost 100% unscripted. Well, actually, no, 100% unscripted outside of the opening line where we welcome everybody. And occasionally we get a couple of bullet points. Whoever's going to lead like the episode will get a couple of bullet points to the other person so that they kind of have a general idea of what's going to be on the table. But neither of us really know. Tracy's walked in super blind today. So I kept telling her I would get her bullet points all week long. And sometimes just things don't work out that way.
Yeah, that's life. That's
So
life.
these are usually my notes.
Mine are on this
And
screen right here.
one of them says, how do you make failing safe for yourself or others? And I
Ah,
love that you're like, yeah. So, I mean, you didn't even know it, but you're talking about stuff
was
it's
on
the
the
third
list.
bullet point though. So just pause. Oh, I lost a headphone. So even with your team though, like okay, for you yourself, how do you make failing safe? And then how do you also kind of encourage? Because I think failing with my team or having them fail when they try to do something with the customer is 100% okay.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, even if we tried and we failed, we learned something. A door closed on us. That's great. Now we just know we have to go a different route, and it helps you find the right path to success so much faster when you are willing to fail. But if you're
Yep.
never willing to get started, you don't even know. So how do you make that safe for yourself to fail? And then how do you make it safe for others to fail?
Oh, man. So for myself, I think that's something I'm still like trying to learn. The fact that I told someone that I failed, or the fact that I'm telling the podcast that I failed the machine learning certificated, like that's a big step for me because I tend to keep some of that close to the vest. And not that I expect anyone else to, be 100% perfect all of the time, but I don't know. It's just like this weird thing that I'm trying to overcome. I think it's easier for me to enable others and create this safe space where like failure's okay. Like, we all hear, I think, the term fail fast, right? It's okay to fail as long as we do it fast and then we can pivot and do something else. But talking more about failures, talking more about lessons learned, being more vulnerable. I think all of it's to me, some of that stuff isn't rocket science. You just have to, make sure that being a leader, everyone has a different style. But I think for me, what has my strength would be some of the vulnerability that I share about what's going on in my own work life and even sometimes personal life gives people, at least I hope it does. This is the intent, permission to open up about some stuff that they're struggling with at work, or some of the failures that they've seen with a customer or an engagement or whatever. And how do we turn that into something where other people can learn and make it actually a really good thing? So I don't know if that's the best answer, but I think I'm still trying to figure it out, actually. You?
I love it though, because in the very first episode, we talked about what is our goal or what is our purpose with the podcast. And one of the things I mentioned was creating a sense of universality, that no one's alone in this process. If, someone else is probably trying to make sourdough and has failed just as many times as I have.
Mm-hmm.
And first of all, or second of all, I should say, I don't even know if it's first or second, but either way, everyone still eats the bread that's being made. So it's not that bad. It's just too dense. It's like not chewy and not rising enough. So even what I'm considering a failure, it's not like it's completely inedible. It's just not meeting my personal expectations of being
Right.
that perfect sourdough loaf.
It's not meeting high
So
bar.
it's not hard. It's not, you know what? I don't even know it meets the bar, but they're willing to eat it and it's
Uh,
fine. It's
yeah, if
fine.
they're willing to eat it, that means it at least meets the bar. That's my
It
vote.
meets the bread bar. It does
Yeah.
not meet the sourdough bread bar, IMHO. But so we said we wanted to create a sense of universality. And I think sharing those failures is one of the ways that you do that, because it's really hard to admit when you've failed at something. It's really hard for me to admit that if I look back on it, the person I was in my 20s, like I'm kind of like, ugh, about. I'm like, ugh, I'm such a better person now than I was back then. And that's hard
Same.
to even admit, or it's hard to admit for me that when I first started being a leader, I don't think I was very good at it at all. I think I had seen so many bad leadership techniques that I mimicked those bad behaviors of being more of a dictator or more of just like get it done kind of person.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now my style is like, what does it take? How can I support you to be successful to get this
Mm-hmm.
completed? And like, how do I help you get into that space where you're able to do it? Whereas before I just like, get it done. I need to figure it out. And I think there's always some level of that has to happen because we're performing jobs to meet specific KPIs and goals. But the way that I engage is completely different. And if I look at the leader I was when I first got a team, I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry for those people. I'm so sorry. I'm a better person now.
This is kind of kind of off topic, but kind of on the same lines of just like leadership and being vulnerable. So I think for me, and I think you might agree as well, is being a people leader is sometimes a grind. You know, you have your responsibilities to run your business as far as how am I going to pull in revenue and doing the kind of like day-to-day stuff of just the operational tasks. But then there's like the people side of it, and there's a lot of really great things that come with that, but then there's sometimes a lot of really challenging things that come with that. And I think the best for me, when I feel like I'm doing the right thing as a leader, even when I'm feeling like really down and in the grind of the not so fun stuff, is getting feedback like, wow, you showed a lot of empathy to me in that scenario. I'm like, you have no idea how good that makes me feel. Or I know that I can come to you and get sound advice. Like those little things of the vulnerability and try, and I feel like maybe I'm more of a open up personally a little bit more maybe than some other leaders, which is not right or wrong. It's just I think my personality. But those little bits of feedback is so energizing and just feeds into, okay, maybe I am doing something right. Maybe I am creating that space that I'm hoping that I'm going to create. And that's a pretty awesome feeling. And I'm like, get energized. I'm like, yes, this is why I do this. I don't know.
I love that. I think that's such great nuggets that you get that feedback back. I love feedback back.
Feedback back. It's going into the bloops. Bloopers, that is.
I do love it though. That's great. It feels like there's an author and researcher, Brene Brown. It feels
Yeah.
like your leadership style kind of leans in a lot into the the evolution of leadership that she kind of started to research, is that you lead with vulnerability and then you can create this environment that is safe and people are willing to show up and do the productivity after that. It seems like your leadership style very much so kind of mimics that.
We'll see. I need
Or
to read some of her books. I've heard really good things about it. I feel like I tried to read, I started one a while back and I got distracted.
I think
But
it's
yeah.
Dare. Is hers Dare to Lead? I think.
Okay,
Can't
that's
remember,
probably
but
it. Yeah. I wonder if I have that
yeah,
on my Audible. I'll have to cue it back up.
it's a good book. I have read it, and I do like the idea of it and getting to the meat of individual personalization as far as leadership goes as well, and not just like blanket policies for people. I think it makes
Mm-hmm.
a huge difference. Looks like she has a couple others out though. I'm just looking right now. Yeah, I think Dare to Lead is her first main one though.
All right. I'm adding it to the list.
Excellent. Okay, well, I had that's most of our conversation for the day that I
I
had.
have a
I think it
question
was
for
really
you.
just okay, let's go.
Okay. I have last question for you. So we talked a little bit about like motivation. I think with that comes maybe some sort of discipline, right? And so, what do you do to either stay motivated when you hit a wall, or maybe you're lacking discipline in a certain space? How do you get that? How do you get the fire fueled like you have for sourdough for other things?
That's a great question. And I don't know. I think it's personality. Do you know much about the Enneagrams? Like
The
if you're an
what?
Enneagram 1 through 9, Enneagrams?
Is
It's
that
like a
like?
personality. I don't know if it's a personality test. It's like a to uncover like hidden motivators and how do you figure out how to motivate. Actually, I don't even want to say this because someone's going to be watching the Enneagram and be like, they know way more about it than I do. Anyway, if you don't know it, I'm like an Enneagram 8, which is a challenger. And um, these people tend to hate to be controlled. And it's very true. Like, this is a
I
very,
was
like,
gonna say, spot on.
yeah. So their motivator is to avoid like something trying to control them. And it's really accurate for me. And I think like when something feels like I can't do it, I'm like, nope, you don't get that kind of control over me because like that's going to make me feel like bad about myself, and you don't get that.
Yeah,
So I just like want to smash it because I'm like, told you, you don't get it.
we need to insert Hulk smash.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, layover for sure.
And I don't know where that, came from me. I don't know if I was wondering this myself, and I'm sure folks that are really embedded in the psychology and, especially like nurture versus nature type of
Yeah,
studies would really know if that consistent, just like, no, like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Of course I can do it. I have no idea where this, like, there's like a Instagram reel that's like, I was born with this like idea that I can do anything, like nothing's that hard. And it's really like, it's a lie because, I'm like, oh yeah, I can build like some cabinets. Oh yeah, why can't I build cabinets? It's actually probably pretty hard if you don't know what you're doing, but they make it look so easy. So I'm like, oh yeah, why can't I do that? And that's how I constantly feel. I'm like, why can't I do that? Like, why
right.
can't I do that over and over again? But I don't really know where it comes from. I don't know
Growth
if it's because
mindset.
like, yeah, but I don't know if it's like from my nature versus nurture, if I was just grown under space where I was allowed to do those things and just be like, yeah, of
Oh, I see
course.
what you're
Why can't
saying.
I do it? Yeah, I don't know if it was like a childhood thing or if it's just who I am organically. I'm the youngest of four. I don't know, like, as far as siblings go. I don't know if I was just like, no, like, no, no, I'm the youngest of four.
A
I'm gonna do whatever I feel
rampant
like.
child. Are your siblings like that? Do they share similar that trait?
I don't think so. I don't think so at
Hmm.
all.
I don't think so at all.
I don't know where they would be like in this like test or
Yeah.
assessment. I don't know what we would really call it, but I'll have to send you the link so we can figure out what Enneagram you are. But
Oh yeah.
yeah, I wish I could tell you how I find this, but it's literally just constantly wanting to prove people wrong, and I don't know why that's who I want to be.
Because you're a bad
But
motherfucker. Oh, yes.
there's like I wish I knew. I really wish I knew. But I'm hoping that it's inspiring to other people because we
Yeah.
also talked about like we want this like podcast to be a space where people can bet on themselves or start to like invest in
Yeah.
themselves, or if you don't know something, like start to do it. And I have this little post-it note by my desk that says the truth is little by little is better than nothing at all. And I think this really resonates with me for like how I am as a a leader. I'm never going to be a perfect leader, but little by little,
Mm-hmm.
I get better and better every year. I'm never going to know everything about whatever topic we're talking about, but I feel the same way about you with machine learning. Like, I'm going to study it. I'm behind you as far as sitting for the exam, but I had a couple other priorities that took place. Um, but it's all
Speaking
right
of
if I
it,
fail. Like, I don't really care if I fail because I'm just like, I'll know more than what I did before I failed. And that's the only point that matters to me.
mm-hmm.
It's just to know more than I did before. And that's a win. So
Yeah,
maybe you just got to like have a different perception of the goal.
right. Yep, I agree.
Yeah. But I don't know where it comes from. I wish I could answer that and put it in a box and sell it.
I'd buy it 100%. You know, you mentioned like the cabinet thing, like, oh, you're this person has just like quickly whipped up some beautiful cabinets. I thought the same thing for I made a frame, like a picture frame. I'm really into I kind of like art and I do some watercolor. I'm not good at it, but I just enjoy it. It feels good to my soul. So, I took this like watercolor class a few months ago and do some acrylic stuff, but I made this like abstract thing. It does not look great, but it's okay. It was fun. And then I was like, you know what would look great with this? A floating frame. How hard could that be to make? So I go to Lowe's. I'm buying this like box miter saw. I'm buying clamps. I'm trying to find wood. I'm sure I looked so ridiculous just walking around Lowe's carrying all this random stuff. And it took me a month to make this frame, and it's not even square. It's so bad. Maybe next episode I'll bring it. It's like all like crooked. I'm like, I can't
Oh,
even put
yeah.
my not decent artwork in this crooked frame because it won't even fit. But like you said, little by little, um, what did you even say? Little by little is better than nothing at all. Like that's how like my next frame,
Yeah.
man, it's gonna be so square. It's gonna be so good. So good.
Yeah, but maybe also you can cut your artwork to fit the frame because that makes it even more artistic.
Ooh,
Why
yeah.
does it have to be square?
That's true. Probably because my
It can be
OCD
whatever
won't
you.
allow it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I hear
there's
you on
that.
that, but
Yeah.
I was just trying to give you optionality.
We'll see. Maybe we'll have show and tell for the next podcast to see the not square frame
Yeah.
and your
All right.
sourdough.
Well, is there any other? Oh, yeah. I'll bring it. I'm going to make another one this weekend, and
Good.
then I'll take some pictures so that people can see what my sourdough looks like, and then maybe a sourdough expert can like message me and say, "All right, I hear you, and you're on a lot of Instagram reels, and you're taking in a lot of advice and feedback, and you don't know which one is for you. Here's some prescriptive guidance. That's what I need. Your dough looks like X, and
Yeah.
you need to do Y." And I'm going to
Yeah.
say thank you,
We're just
and I'll
gonna
try it right away.
we're just gonna reach out to the community and we're gonna get your sourdough in tip top shape.
Yeah. This is where I need to ask for help. But you know what? This is a real, so I am not like, I'm a very social media ingester. Outside of our posts that we do and the various, in LinkedIn, which I do quite a lot, that's for like leadership or trying to like
Yeah.
promote various AWS stuff that's happening. I'm like, I have some accounts. I never post to them for the most part. I just like to scroll them and see whether I'm now
Lurk.
commenting and engaging with these sourdough people. I'm like, hi, I noticed in your video, looks like this. What do you mean by that? And they
Please
respond
help.
back because, of course, they want to because it helps their engagement and helps their video keep getting like more and more views, which
Yeah.
is wonderful. But like, I'm now that person. I don't know that I've commented on anyone's Facebook or Instagram or any other thing in like I don't even know
Ever?
how long. But now all of a sudden, I'm a completely different person. I'm like, hi, your sourdough looks really nice. Can you help me?
You're like sliding into DMs talking about their sourdough.
Yes, yes.
I
This
love
is
it.
not who I thought I was going to be in my 40s, but whatever. Here we are.
I like it. I like it. Oh my God, that's great.
Okay, so all of this is, to sum up here is that
Mhm.
people need to bet on themselves. It's okay to try something, okay to fail at it. And even if you're failing, don't give up unless you're just like, this isn't, I'm going to go try this other thing and maybe
Right.
potentially be more successful or fail at that. But like, give yourself that opportunity to try maybe try to flip some furniture, whatever it is, maybe sit for a machine learning exam. Give your chance the opportunity to either succeed or to fail, and it's okay either way.
I love it. This
Because
is the best Friday
little by
ever.
little, yeah, because little by little is better than nothing at all.
You go, girl. I feel so good. I'm
Yeah,
about to crush it today.
yeah, we're gonna crush it. It's gonna be great. All right, well, thanks for chatting with me today. These are always lovely when we do them in the morning
I know.
because it just
Best
starts
day
the day
ever.
off right.
Yup.
Yeah,
I'm pumped.
okay. Well, you know how we always end it. There's the two parts of this that are scripted, the intro and the outro. Got to
Yep.
cue that outro music.
Boom. Peace.